Hey everybody, it's George from Fanatic Forum here. Welcome to day two, part two of our Multiverse FunRaiser here. We've got a very exciting Q&A coming up here with Cress Williams. You guys know him, especially from Black Lightning, but I mean, this man has been on a multitude of shows here and films. So we've got an exciting Q&A to come up with him. So I'm going to bring on our host, Keisha from Keisha Acuff Creations here. Hello, dear. How are you?
Hi, our actual main host today is Tyler.
Oh,
So
well,
if you want to bring Tyler up first, because
Yes.
he's way more important than me anyway. Yeah, and he'll give you kind of
That's fair. It's very kind of you, Keisha. Thank you. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
good to see you, Tyler. Here, and I'm
Good
going
to
to
see you,
bow out
George.
here. I'm just here pressing buttons and whatnot, keeping things rolling. So you guys enjoy it. I'll let you bring on your guest of honor here.
All right, sounds good. All right. Hi, Keisha. How are you?
Hi, I am good. How are you, Tyler?
I am doing well. So, like he was saying, welcome to the Multiverse Fundraiser. And I am Tyler, host of the Krypton Report, and with me is Keisha, the co-host of Cryptid Crunch from Back of the Cereal Box Network, as well as Keisha is writer and artist. And we will be, like he said, we will be talking to Mr. Cress Williams, aka Jefferson Pierce from Black Lightning. So let's go ahead here. We are raising money for the Ritter Rally for aortic health. The links are at the bottom. So let's go ahead without further ado and let's get Cress on here.
Yep, George, can you bring him up for us, please?
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hey guys.
I just saw you earlier.
Did you? What did you see me?
I've actually been watching reruns of Black Lightning.
Oh wow. Okay.
Heart of Dixie, because Heart of Dixie is actually one of my favorite series since it came out.
Oh, thank you.
Watched it probably a good 5 to 6 times from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I also have really bad ADHD, so each time I forget half of it, and then it's like I'm rewatching it the same way every time, like a different way every time. So
that's amazing. I had so many different shows that I wish I had ADHD, and I wish whenever the show I love, I'm like, I wish I could erase my memory and watch it again. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, we're very excited to have you here, Mr. Williams, and thank you for being part of this and giving us your time so we could chat and raise some money.
Yeah, awesome. I'm very happy to be here, honored to be here, and let's raise some money and shoot whatever you want to talk about.
Everything.
Well, okay. We have a comment here from Molly Daniels here. Says, I remember Cress on Beverly Hills 90210 and Living Single.
Yeah, she remembers my first 2 jobs ever. Well, my first 2 television jobs ever. Before that, I did a small dinner theater play where I actually got paid. So that was, I guess, technically my first professional acting job was dinner theater. But these are my first 2 television jobs ever. That's going way back.
Well, what I find most fascinating about your IMDb is how many things I had seen you in, but forgot that I had seen you in. And I mean, your career is spanning from NYPD Blue, JAG, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Nash Bridges, West Wing, Friday Night Lights, which everyone tells me I need to watch. And of course, Keisha brought up Heart of Dixie. It's very impressive.
It's so
very impressive.
And nothing is the same.
Yes.
It's like not in the same genre at all. It's like, let's go from this little hometown country thing where I play, a mayor to, hey, I am a legitimate superhero.
Right.
Like in the next
that's on some level it's by design. At least in my head it's the type of actor I wanted to be, and when I started studying acting, it was the type of actor I was kind of training to be, and I just been blessed that's how it worked out, because I get bored, and typically whenever I'm playing something, I'm already thinking about the exact opposite that I want to play, and Hollywood has been cool in the fact that I haven't been pigeonholed into anything. So it's kind of cool.
Can you take us back to what made you like? Where did the acting bug strike? Where first when you were like, this is what I want to do, and you decided to
Yeah.
like get involved?
Yeah. I mean, I would almost say on some level, I'd almost say since birth, because I don't remember not wanting to do it. My mother at first reference to me as a baby, she was like, she had two things. She said, first of all, when I laughed, it just made everybody laugh. It was very infectious. I'm like, okay. But she also said that, no matter what, if I was all over the place, whatever, all you do is turn on the television, and then I was transfixed. And so I always looked at that as a kid, like, oh, that was destiny. But like, I grew up watching a lot of television, and back in those days, there were lots of old movies that were on, and I just soaked up everything, and I just felt like that's what I want to do. And I knew I was a bit strange because I remember when I was probably like fifth or sixth grade, and we had just moved into a new neighborhood, and back then kids actually played outside. And you basically, when you wanted to make friends, you went outside, and the neighborhood kids on the street, and you started playing. And I remember I met these kids, and we were all kind of going, what do we do? Do we want to go play hide and seek? Do we want to go do this? Do we want to do that? And I, for some apparent reason, chimed in and go, let's have a singing contest. And I immediately in my head also knew, I was pretty introspective as a kid. I was like, that's strange. Like, that's not normal for me to say that. We didn't have a singing contest, but that was kind of, the first memory I have of myself going, yeah, you're a little different. So
Don't worry, none of us here are normal, so
yes,
we're in the right place.
yeah. I don't
my-
think really anybody's normal, but
My
It's true.
my best friend has a funny story about talking about being a kid on the playground at school singing songs from Les Mis, and people just looking at him like, what are you singing? And he's just like singing, do you hear the people? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I knew I was a little off.
So what is he? Is he an actor, singer, Broadway producer? What does he do?
Right now he does music production and started his own studio in Cincinnati.
There you go. That's awesome.
So
I love to hear
it's
that.
just one of those stories that, I pass on to my son, because my son is getting really into theater right now. He just auditioned for his second play, and he got a pretty significant part for being his second play at school. So
nice. What play?
They're doing 101 Dalmatians.
Okay.
Oh, cute.
And he got Pongo, and that's what he wanted. And he just did A Christmas Carol in December, and now he's going to audition for the Knave of Hearts in April, and he's only 8. So like, this is like him getting started, and he's just really excited for it.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
My son is he's 13 now, and he's been doing plays since they actually like opened them up for his age group. So I think his first one was around 4 or 5 with the local high school or something like that.
Okay.
And he's been in them almost every year since then. He can't stand it. He loves the acting part. He can memorize all of his lines. He loves that. But he doesn't like being in front of people because he's a rather shy child.
Yeah.
Which, of course, being in front of people is mainly what you do when you're acting on a stage. So I don't think it's gonna really go into anything.
But it's a great, tool to kind of stretch out, and I mean, just like playing sports. These are all things I think that kids need to explore.
Is to be a Lego master.
Nice.
He's 13. He wants to be a Lego master so bad. He's like, I'm gonna build my entire house out of Legos and all this other stuff. So I mean, I don't see acting in his future, but
right.
A couple musicals here and there isn't bad.
I mean, that's amazing. That's more than I did. It's funny, and I was that shy kid as well. So that like my mother, I did choir because like I don't know if it's weird growing up. we moved around a lot, and then I don't remember there being a lot of plays in the schools that I went to. Certainly, even in high school, our high school didn't have a theater program, so I was just kind of sitting on my thumbs
Oh
through
man.
most of high school. So, but I did a lot of choir, and even then, like my mother would just be like, you know, you need to smile more, and that was it. And so she knew me as this shy kid. So it wasn't until my junior year of high school, our school had a school talent show every year, and people would try out to be the host, and so I was a host. And as a host, you know, you're kind of writing your own intros and outros, describing acts, and so it was the first time she saw me. Actually, I was up there. I was doing like Michael Jackson impersonations and all these different little sketches. She's like, "Oh my God, that's my son! Oh my goodness!" So,
Oh, that's so cute.
yeah, that was the only indication that I was going to be an actor. And to her credit, when I actually came to her and said, "No, this is what I want to do with my life," with her seeing no experience of it, she was just like, "Yeah, go for it," as opposed to like, "You are a shy kid, do something else." She was very encouraging, so that was cool.
Well, we're glad that
cool.
she was encouraging, because
Yeah.
if
Yes.
not, literally one of my favorite shows would not have one of my favorite actors in it. So
That was such a Howard Dixie is funny because the people I understand. I've seen people over the years who are like you, who've watched it like many times over, and people come up to me and said, "Oh, whenever I'm sick, you know, it's the show that when I'm in bed sick, I just got to put it on and
it's a
watch."
comfort show for me.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it was really cool actually to be on a show though that was like not only the show itself, but like even the environment was so family friendly. At the time, my oldest, who's now 17, she was, you know, much younger, and it was her first times really on sets, and they were so welcoming, and it was a cool place for her to be. So
I'm actually
That's awesome.
pregnant with child right now.
congratulations.
Several of the names that I have picked out, regardless of if it's a boy or girl, are from the show.
That's wait, okay. So what? Like, I don't think you're picking out Levon, but like Wade
My
or
name is Keisha, so I don't.
oh, so maybe you might pick out Levon.
No, so far I really liked the name Wade,
Okay.
because Wade Kinsella is one of my like. When it first came out, I had a huge crush on Wade.
Yeah, yeah.
But if it's a girl, I was thinking almost like Lemon, which I know is one of your love interest in the show.
Wow.
But there was a couple. I have been forbade by somebody else in the network here to name my child Cricket.
Yeah.
One of the people that actually puts this together and helps and gets all of our fun people on here, like you, Kristen. She was like, "Keisha, please, whatever you do not name your child Cricket."
Yeah.
She's like, "Don't." So I'm not allowed to name it that. But I
would agree. I mean, you do whatever you want, but you're going for a very distinctive thing with Cricket. Like she must wear like tennis skirts and a sweater around her neck and probably belongs to a country club.
Well, see, my first daughter is Dolores and my son's name is James. Nice. So I can pretty much pick whatever at this point.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
My grandma's nickname growing up was Crick or Cricket. So just because she would run in the country and play in the country and everything. She grew up in the country and everything. So.
It's funny, and this is like just happenstance because it was like a couple nights ago. I already knew this, but we were at the dinner table talking. I don't know how it came back up again, but my wife at one point, someone just started calling her Cricket. She's like 5'3", and she's got these big, beautiful eyes. So at different points in her life, she's like, people would just want to call her these cute names. And at one point, somebody was calling her Cricket, and we all just kind of like went like, what? Why? That's horrible. I already knew it. But
my nickname is Bug. I am also very tiny. I'm 5'1.5".
Bug too. That's crazy. How tall?
Yeah. I'm 5'1.5".
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
That's
So
what
I'm very
my
short.
father-in-law calls my daughter.
Calls her Bug.
And so
Yeah.
my
Nice.
entire life growing up, I was called Bug or
Uh-huh.
Boris because my sister's name is Natasha.
Ah,
So Natasha and Boris.
yes.
I got the short end of the stick there.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
basically I was short, so they just went with it.
Wow. Yeah, my youngest daughter, her middle name is June. Named and my father was Oscar Williams Jr. and everybody called him June. So we gave her the middle name June, and we're trying to get Junebug to stick. So I get the bug.
Junebug did stick for me. I was born in June, and my nickname was Bug. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we were hoping because we already knew that we were gonna. Her middle name was gonna be June, and her due date was in June, and we're like, I hope it's not, because people always think like, oh, that's why you named her June. Fortunately, she decided to, she's like, no, I don't want that moniker, so she came May 31st, but so that people can't attribute to June because it's a different reason for June. But yeah, anyway.
That's smart. Good for her. She made the call. She knew what was going on.
thanks.
That's like when my son. Well, I mean, it's like my son. Like, I, my wife was pregnant. I was like, please be born before Daddy turns 30, and he was born January 12th, and my birthday's February 12th. So he came 1 month before I turned 30. So I was like, oh, all right. He's already got a little bit of a smart aleck in him. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, kids do that. They do that.
They do. They do. Now, Mr. Williams, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Looking at your history and the characters you play, I have to ask you: are you a comic book fan?
So yeah, in a tangential way. Like I didn't grow up reading a lot of comic books. I didn't have a lot of money. But I grew up like as I said, digesting everything that was on the screen. So I grew up watching every cartoon I could think of, and any comic book movie. I mean, to this day, I'm still a bit of. It's so funny. Nerds are kind of like this whole thing of nerddom is like kind of it's. We were talking about it the other night because we were watching this cooking show, and it was all these like these baking people, and I was like, oh, these are like baking nerds because they have all these circuits of baking competitions, and then we were talking about, well, yeah, there's nerds, there's cosplay, and there's cosplay nerds, and then there's there are actual food nerds, and I didn't say it out loud, but I was wondering, like, well, we're kind of like my wife and I were like kind of like universal nerds because I kind of nerd out on a lot of different things, sci-fi, fantasy, food, like all sorts of things. So growing up, I watched everything, from the Super Friends, and anytime we didn't have back then, there wasn't like the genre that it is today, the superhero genre, which is amazing. So I know a little bit about a lot, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I just, I remember, watching Lois and Clark.
I thought that's the first thing that popped in my head. Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it is him. I was like super excited. And it just, because you did Baron Sunday on Lois and Clark. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm a huge Superman fan.
Right.
And everything. So, you are part of the super family in several ways, and we'll get there as we talk. But what was it like being on Lois and Clark at the time?
It was cool all the way from like, even the audition process, right? I mean, I went into the room, and generally I'll say the whole like, group that is actors. Most of my career has been pretty pleasant, even sometimes downright helpful. I've been in waiting rooms with actors where actors are looking out for each other and like giving each other like tips, like, hey, they just said this, so just so you know, and not really like that cutthroat type of thing. But I do remember going in for that audition, and I can't remember the actor's name, but I remember it was an older actor, because Baron Sunday at the time, I even felt like it was written for somebody older than I was at the time. But I had the audition and I went in, and I remember in the waiting room, this older like journeyman actor, he I walked in and he's like, "Look at Youngblood trying to get a job." And I was like, "What is going on?" And it was kind of like with a little bit of venom to it, and a little bit of like I'm like mean girling me a bit. And I always like thought about it later on when I did the audition and I got the job, and I was like, "Oh man, if I could have seen him like right after, I'd be look at that Youngblood got your job," you know. And so I remember that.
I want you to see him now, just so that you can say
Yeah.
that. Okay.
And but the job also was so much fun. It was like some of the great one of the wonderful things I love about acting is that like you get a role, and depending on the role, you gain insight into something you don't know about, or you get to work on something that's not your world. And so, Baron Sunday was a magician, like under the guys, and they didn't realize, like, wait a minute, his magic is actually not tricks; they're actually real. So before shooting, like they partnered me with a magician. They let me go to the magic castle. They taught me some little things. I remember I had this little thing. I still have it. I have it somewhere, like in kind of my little memorabilia, where it's just like this little hand thing that fits in your hand. So from this side you can't see it, but it's almost like a version of a lighter where you can just boom, and then flames will light here, and it's got like a little cotton ball that sits on it. You douse it with kerosene, and then you boom, and it looks like fire's coming. So all these little things that I got a chance to like explore. It was the first time I wore contacts because I had these I think they were cat eye contacts at one point when I transformed, and then I also was very excited because I was very, very much aware of like, wait a minute, I'm like, I don't beat Superman because nobody ever beats Superman ultimately, but usually people get caught and I get away. Like I was like, that's rare. I went against Superman and made it out because I just mysteriously get like I don't die, I don't, but I don't get caught either. And I think I'm very proud of that.
You should be. You should be. And as Kristen has said, Baron Sunday was an amazing villain, and I found it to be like a really unique kind of character that I think the character should reappear somewhere and be back.
That would be really cool.
It would be a great character, like just to see resurgence in comics or shows or somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was because he never got caught, and he got away. So even for a second there, I was even like, oh, maybe I'll get a chance to come back. Obviously not, but it was a lot of fun. I love those moments where you get to like pick up a new skill, whether it be like I picked up boxing, when I was in a play playing Joe Louis, and just these things that you just kind of grab, and I haven't used it yet, but I remember when I was in college, we were about to do a production of Three Musketeers, and so I took fencing and picked up fencing, and we were a bunch of theater nerds, so you would catch us at our parties dueling each other for fun.
That does sound fun, though.
It was oh my god, it was tons of fun. It was better than like improv games. I mean, which I got tired of those. So
me and my group of friends, we used to get together after school in high school. Like we would stay at school because nerds, and we would actually do role playing.
Oh, and wait,
like straight up. We would dress up in character gear and we would run around the entire school. And so we were on YouTube before YouTube got cool. You can still find those videos. I really don't want to say the name because one of my friend Jasmine, is actually a very prominent lawyer.
No.
Yeah. And I always hesitate. I'm like, okay, I want to tell people that this thing still exists on the internet because I can find it and watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't think Jasmine would appreciate me giving out that information.
I don't know if lawyers want to be known as OG LARPers.
No, we called her Cobra.
Cobra? Like in Cobra Command?
Cobra.
Oh, okay.
She was like a knockoff version of Oprah. And so yeah, it was so fun. just being able to nerd and geek out like that with friends after school and stuff
Oh,
like that.
man.
So I can definitely tell that you had a lot of fun fencing and stuff like that, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
had the same experience with my friends, just we had foam swords instead.
Well, it was only me, and I still have my foil. Only me and a buddy of mine, we each had a foil. I think then people started buying foils, but we only had 2 masks, so it was just kind of a round robin, loser sits down, next challenger up, and I gotta admit, I did pretty well. I'm so tall, and I used my reach in my favor when it came to fencing, but yeah, it's the internet is a crazy thing nowadays. Like everything, nothing goes away.
Oh,
True.
this was way back when I was in high school, which I
Yeah,
know I don't seem that old, but I do have a 13-year-old, so that gives away my age a little bit.
right, right.
But like it was when YouTube was just starting to get big, and what is it? Not Facebook, but MySpace was a
Oh
thing.
yes, yes,
That
yes,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And so we posted this everywhere thinking that it was the coolest thing on the planet.
Because it
And
was.
it was. Actually, one of the things that I love the most about the fact that it did not go away is, unfortunately, one of my friends who was kind of really into the deep culture of, he wanted to be an actor, he wanted to be a magician, stuff like that. He's one of the ones that we used to role play with, and we were really close. We had a very close knit, very diverse friend group,
Yeah.
and he ended up going off to college, and unfortunately, he was not treated very well, and he did end up ending his life.
Mhm.
But I get to watch all of those happy moments of
Yeah.
like us being like him riding around on my shoulders and pretending we're a dragon and ridiculous things like that. Like, so those are nice because I still have those memories.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
like in my friend Jasmine's case, who she is a very big time lawyer in a very big city, she's probably like, please don't
Don't ever show
never
that.
tell
Yeah.
people that exists.
Maybe she like secretly, when she's by herself, she like goes into a dark room and watches, but like you can make
I
sure.
have no doubt in my mind, because none of us remember the email address or the password to get in to
Yeah.
stop those from being a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just pretend they don't exist until we're like, this is fun. I want to go back and rewatch this.
Well, it's funny. I
That is
remember
cool.
back in I was probably 7th and 8th grade. A friend of mine, his father had built a radio tower on his roof, and so he was an engineer. And my friend, he had all this radio equipment in his bedroom, and he would just buy albums after albums out. He had like a huge album collection, and so he had a tiny radio show that I guess if you were, we never attempted it, but I think the idea was that if you were really really close and you to his house, and you could maybe play with the dial and maybe find it. And so it was his baby, but I came on, and we used to call it KQRM, the Kings of Quality Rock Music.
Nice.
And he
Nice.
was like, the DJ, and I was kind of his sidekick, known as Dr. Gorilla, and I'd be like, Dr. Gorilla. And
Nice.
we would
I
literally
love
play
that.
albums, and like seriously play like a real radio station. We'd play albums like we made sure we didn't step on the lyrics, so you kind of intro a song in the musical intro and get out before the lyrics start. And like it was serious. I'm sure he has them recorded on cassettes somewhere, but I don't know where they are. But yeah, those wonderful things you do.
If you ever find them, though,
Oh
let
yeah.
me know.
I would love, yeah, I would just be curious because at the time, we felt like we were doing some really cool stuff and we were really professional. But I don't know.
It's like
We
those old
also
home
felt
videos
like
I find.
You was looking
Yeah.
at the home videos.
My brother and I used to make movies all the time when I was in high school. Like anytime I had a report, I taught my teacher to let me do it as a video report, and my brother and I would go make a movie. I did a Star Wars book report. So basically, part of it was me and my brother just lightsaber battling on camera, and
Of
you know
course.
that's so that's what I got away with. It was awesome. This is high
I
school era.
took in high school. I took video production in class, and I still have all the DVDs that they're burned onto, and thankfully they are only in DVD form
Yes.
because I I don't think I ever want those seeing the light of day ever. We thought that we were doing great. Like we got an A+ on the projects and stuff like that. But looking back on it now, I'm like, that is not my calling.
Oh man. Well, I know as an actor, like and discovering, I think over the holidays, we had a lot of people coming through for dinners, and we have friends over for dinner pretty frequently, and conversations that get tossed around. And a lot of my friends are actors in some regard, doing commercials or whatever. And I remember one Thursday night, somehow we got talking about like, because I haven't really had a prominent commercial career. I tried it for a little while, and it just didn't work out for me. But I did do a couple of commercials early on in my career, and so I was like, yeah, I did these things. I did a Taco Bell commercial, and I'm kind of describing the commercial, and I'm like, yeah, I did this weird, Miller Lite commercial, and I described the commercial. And I just, again, sometimes I maybe old or seem older than I am, and I just didn't even think about it. And next thing you know, a buddy of mine's on his phone, and he's like, "I found them." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so he finds these old commercials,
They're
and then
never going away.
they're never going away. And then literally, like right before Christmas, we were talking again, another conversation about old stuff, and I was talking about this pilot. I think it was probably the first pilot I ever did. Um, that didn't get picked up, and it was this pilot called Rolling Thunder. And I like, again, you gotta have a tough skin, so I'm like, I'm fine. People watch it, that's fine. But it was this weird. I it was like it felt like it was going to be a Saturday afternoon show as opposed to like an actual primetime show. They were really trying to turn it into a real show. It was called Rolling Thunder, and it was a group, like this weird A-team like group of people.
Nice.
We had the computer genius and the sexy girl, and the ex-military, and we all had different vehicles that shot non-lethal weapons. So all I remember is I think I was ex-military, and I remember I had a Humvee, like the old school Humvees. Somebody had a big dually truck, and somebody else, and they shot things like like oil slicks and glue that would stick bad guys up against the wall, and it was pretty bad. But
I would have loved it, honestly. So I have this thing where I'll explain this and then we'll get back, or I want us to kind of explain why we're here again, because
Yeah.
I know it's halfway
Yeah,
through.
we are at the midway point, and we just want to take a comment to let everyone know that we're here for the Ritter Rally. We are raising money for the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, and we're asking people to please donate. The link is scrolling at the bottom, as well as you can find it in show notes and everything like that. I know that we've all shared it on our personal social medias, and it does, like we said, the John Ritter Foundation. Now, Chris, do you have any? Were you ever blessed to meet John before? Did you ever have any past history?
Man, I wish I had. No, I grew up with John like so many people. I mean, I think I have seen every episode first and foremost, because I am that old, of Three's Company, like as it was airing. Um, but and I think he was. I just he was such a like physical comical genius. It's almost like, especially for our time, like it's like like a kind of a version of a Buster Keaton. I would put him alongside of like maybe even like a Lucille Ball, and like his physical comedy was impeccable. But I wish I had. Yeah.
So we thank you for just being here to help us with that. and you've been telling about commercials and theaters and things, but something else that you were part of that was awesome was you voiced John Henry Irons in
Yes.
the Superman, Death of Superman, Reign of Superman films. What was it like to kind of do voiceover? Because I didn't see a lot of voiceover type stuff on your IMDb. How was that
Yeah.
different for you and bringing that character to life?
It was really, I mean, it was just so cool because, like I said, I didn't read a lot of comics, but I did watch a lot of cartoons. And so it was kind of getting a chance to really like scratch that itch for the younger me. And, and the journey was funny because like, I think, it was a 2-part movie. So I came in the first time and did, in the first movie, I had very little and then I had more to do in the second. And it was in between recording those that Black Lightning happened. Like I was there at her, and then when I came back to do the second one, I was like cast as Black Lightning, and I was doing that. And then I remember when we did a premiere in New York, and at that point I was Black Lightning. So it was like I was like, man, I'm like firmly in the DC family. It was really really kind of cool. But like doing voiceover, I've kind of come to voiceover late, so that's why there's not a lot of my IMDb. I'm starting to do more of it now. It's a lot of fun, to just kind of roll out of bed and get ready to do something. I got a chance. I'm not sure when or where or when it's coming out, but there's like a Marvel kind of anthology animated series that's coming out, and I did a voice in a kind of Wakanda episode, which was a lot of fun because it was also very technical. Like we spent a couple of weeks with a dialect coach to get the precise kind of African accent. They're really distinct about what region and what they want the accent to sound like. So that was kind of taking me back to college days. To pick that up and then to kind of put it in. But like voiceover is just it's a version of acting. It's interesting, but like because all the in between, it's all about like bringing these things to life. But all the in between, you kind of toss away the listening and the kind of silence because that doesn't play an animation. It's really all about on the words. So it's a little different muscle, but it was a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that was one of the questions that we had was, will we see Black Lightning one more time in Flash's final season? I've actually had a couple of friends that actually asked me to ask you that. So
no,
thanks,
of
George,
course.
for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, I imagine. I at this point I would say because I haven't. They're usually really good about reaching out like way ahead of time, and so I would probably say not. I mean, I haven't had anybody like reach out to me. Like it was interesting because the last time I was on, I was literally still in the midst of finishing the final season of Black Lightning, and almost a year before I even went and filmed it, they reached out and said, "Hey, will you like to come back and do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, that's like almost like 6-9 months away, but at this point, yeah. And so we made it work. But I kind of felt like, oh, it probably was the last time. On a technical note, like my suit was falling apart for some reason. I mean, it was a fight to keep so the lightning bolts, they're practically lit with battery on my suit. And for some reason, like, it was almost like my suit was going, "This is my last go around," because it was like take after take, they would go out, and then we'd have to like, scramble to try to get them back on again. And it was really bizarre, but nobody's
Okay,
reached out. So,
I do need to put this out there in the universe because I think it really needs to happen.
yeah.
But can we please bring Black Lightning back? I
Aw.
feel like so I feel like it didn't get the justice that it deserved. So I am a huge like superhero in general fan. So
Okay.
I binge watch all of the superhero seasons that I can get my hands on.
Mhm.
It's a problem. And I feel like there was so much more that could have happened with the show.
Yeah.
And just ending it, I feel like we didn't get like as much closure as I wanted personally.
Right, right.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being stubborn, and
No, I don't
but
think so.
I'm like, I would like some more, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. You know, I mean, I think I envisioned. I think we all really envisioned a longer storyline, like a longer run. And there were definitely things that avenues and directions that I thought we could have gone that we didn't. At one point I kind of thought it'd be really cool if we had transitioned into Jefferson leading the Outsiders, um, and you could
I
have
know
really.
that they talked about a couple
Yeah.
like spin-off series.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that really, I felt like it really lent itself to that, and then you start to branch off, and in a sense, create another, not Arrowverse. We were like, I think we would always talk about, oh, this could almost become the next Lightning verse if you start to branch off, if you start bringing in Static Shock and all these different characters. It really
I'm
could.
okay with that, though. Like, literally put it in all the different directions. I will watch it.
Yeah, I hear you.
You
I'm
know,
a
the thing
binger
was,
of everything.
Oh, we got.
what was it like working with Bill Duke?
Oh man, yeah. So I mean, for those who don't know, and I mean, if you've watched anything, you will realize you've seen Bill Duke everywhere, and he is just, especially his most of his persona in life. I mean, on film, has been this like ominous. He plays a bad guy so well, and what's funny is that in life, he's so not like that. He is like the sweetest man. He's got great corny jokes and stories, and but I found, and so he was just so much fun to work with, and he kind of he's part of what I found is a consistent trend is that a lot of the actors out there that you see who are really good at playing bad guys and who play like bad guys all the time, when you meet them in real life, they're actually the sweetest. They're so the opposite, and I'm like, maybe the reason they can play bad guys so well is just because they are so sweet and they get to just explore another side. But like I worked with Donald Sutherland so many years ago, and he's played tons of bad guys, and he was like the funnest, warmest, great guy. Bill Duke was the same way. They just a great time to be around.
Now, I do want to say one thing about Black Lightning as a show is your portrayal of Jefferson Pierce actually changed my life. Straight
Wow.
up.
Wow.
You are like the amazing
the first
father
season.
that everybody needs.
Well,
Yeah.
I watched, Black Lightning, and I started because I love the idea. I have two small children,
Okay.
I had two kids, and I love the idea of this superhero who's, he's retired, he's done all this, but then he picks it back up and he's dealing with the father aspect. I thought that was a great fresh take. But what I
Yes.
loved was Jefferson Pierce as the high school principal, and it actually made me change my career to go back into something I had thought about years ago, was teaching. And I actually decided when COVID hit, I started putting all my effort into getting my teaching license and shifting into that. And it just what you did as Jefferson, not just Black
Yeah.
Lightning, but within the school, impacted me to like, that's the kind of person that I want to be more like as a character, so your portrayal of just Jefferson, is effective, and I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you so much. I mean,
only were you a fantastic father figure throughout that movie, like even at the beginning where you and, oh my gosh, I can't remember your wife's name in the series.
Lynn.
Even though you and Lynn weren't together, you guys still had that full family. Like, you supported each other and you still kind of leaned on each other and stuff like that, which was fabulous because a lot of the times that's not how it works in a home that's split up.
Right.
And then, like he was saying, me and my husband were discussing this a while back. You as a principal, and even when you were just a teacher at the school, you made such an impact. I know it was just television, but you made such an impact on children's lives. Like, when they took you out from being principal, like all the students were like, basically, you know, go out and be a good person. And your whole staged, when you were up on stage saying, hey guys, I'm not going to be principal anymore, and they all stood up in support of you, like, I think honestly all kids need that kind of role model to look up to.
Yeah, that role
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well,
even
no, go ahead.
I'll say, even rolling into like one of my favorite things, like I was so happy when you were brought into the Crisis event because I loved your interaction with Grant.
Yes.
When you two
yeah.
had that scene together, like I was like, that's the show that I want. You know, like that, because you know you had this similar with the lightning powers, and like I was just like that. Listening to you two talk, like I was like, that's
Yeah.
the show. Like I love the way these characters, and I even have my right here, a little pop
Nice.
Black Lightning right here.
Awesome.
I got
Thank
here
you.
as part of. But
That's
what was
awesome.
it? I mean, you know, not being the comic book person,
Yeah.
and you know, auditioning for Black Lightning, what was it that made you want to do it? Was because I know originally the project was set up at Fox and it was going to be like a little bit more of a darker drama, and you know, of course, there's always the behind the scenes changes. What brought you to the character? Because there's a lot of social justice that was brought out in the series.
Yeah.
What drew you to want to be Black Lightning?
Well, the thing is like I honestly, you know, because I am a huge superhero fan, so I've been wanting to play a superhero for a very, very, very long time. And you know, like as soon as it started to be a thing where it was like, oh, there are movies and even before TV shows really started to happen, I think some of the early Arrowverse shows started happening. It was something I wanted to do, and I remember I was actually went to church with a guy who he ended up writing. He's a writer, and so he ended up writing. I think he did Jessica Jones, and then some Luke Cage. But he was the first person who came up to me. I remember at one point in years and years and years before, I think it's probably even before Black Panther, he was like, "Oh my God, dude, you should play Luke Cage." And I'm like, I don't, and I didn't know. I'm like, "Who's Luke Cage?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a superhero," and da 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 da. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I wound up getting the actual graphic novel of Jessica Jones and reading that. And then later on, that started happening, and I went and auditioned for Luke Cage, and I honestly really just things that were going on in my life, I thought I was going to get that job. And everybody, or all my friends, I usually keep my business kind of private, but everybody knew that I wanted to play a superhero. Everybody knew that I wanted the job, and I didn't get the job, as we all know. And I was like just heartbroken, and I was rocked, and I reached a point where I was like, well, I'm on the other side of 40. Maybe this dream of playing a superhero as a bucket list thing is like just not going to happen. Maybe it's just passed me by. And then, like everybody else, I saw in the trades, as they say, about Black Lightning being done at Fox, and I didn't know of the character of Black Lightning. Like I just was, and I guess I had been so burned from really, really wanting the Luke Cage thing that I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And I was kind of like, if that comes my way, we'll see what happens. And then I saw that it had moved to CW, and my agent, like, I reached out to my agent. I think I reached out to when they were at Fox, and he said, no, you're on the list to be considered. So when it's time for them to audition, like, trust me, you're on their list. I'm like, okay, cool. So then it got moved to CW, and then all of a sudden I got a script, and it's like, here's the audition. And I read that first episode, and I, like, the hair in the back of my neck was standing up. I was just like, I told my wife, I'm like, oh my God, you got to read this. Like, and I don't always tell her to read something. I'm like, you got to read this. Because I wanted to play a superhero for the sake of a superhero. I didn't know a lot about Jefferson Pierce or Black Lightning. I just wanted to play a superhero. But then when I started reading it, I was like struck by how much I was drawn to Jefferson Pierce. Like Black Lightning, of course, but like Jefferson Pierce, it was like something in me where I was like, I know this guy, and it was like I didn't want to say it because I didn't want it to not be true, but I was like, I think I am this guy, and I was kind of like, I don't think anybody else can do this. And I have 3 kids. At the time I had 2. Family is very, very important to me. Education is very important to me. I decided to, as an actor, to go to college, and even at the time I taught on the side. I taught acting for like 8 years. So that teacher's mentality, all these things were kind of already inherently in me. And even down to the day that I went to audition, my daughter, my oldest, was in a choir concert that night, and I had 2 auditions that day. I had one at Warner Brothers, and then I had to go all the way to the other side of town to audition for Black Lightning. And I remember I got there, and you're supposed to sign in on a little sign-in sheet, and that's what they usually go by. I got there, and I was so caught up in like just practicing and getting ready before going, I forgot to sign in. So suddenly I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to sign in. And since at that point, like multiple actors had signed in before me, so I put my name down, and all I could think about was like, I'm not going to make that concert. Like, I'm not going to make my daughter's choir concert now. So I remember going in the waiting room. I'm like, hey guys, can I go? Because I got to make this. I got a choir concert. And again, actors are really cool, and they were like, yeah, no, go, no problem. And I remember the casting directors like, we got to get you to that choir concert. I'm like, yeah. And so I did my audition, and I felt like I did like a solid job, but it wasn't like fireworks and stars. It was just kind of like I just did what I knew I needed to do. I got on my motorcycle and I made it to the choir show in time. And like within a couple of days, they were like, oh, they want to test you for this. I'm like, okay. And I went in and tested, and then they made me wait for, I think, a good couple of weeks, because they were like, here's the thing. And my daughter heard it, and she doesn't really understand Hollywood. She's like, you're the guy. This is what they said. You're the guy. But when you test, like, that's the last step. That's when they take everything towards the network to say, here are our choices, pick. They never want to take just one person to a test, because the network needs to have choices. And they don't want the idea of like, they bring one person and the network says, we don't like that person. What else do you got? Now we got nothing. Good. Start over. So they never do that. So they're like, you're the guy, but we don't have any other choices. So they're going to go out and audition some more people, which they could audition more people. I had to explain this to my daughter. She's like, you got the job, right? I'm like, no. And she said, but you're the guy. And I'm like, no. They're going to go off and audition more people. They could go find another guy.
Well, I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. So, so it was like a week or so later that they finally called and said, job's yours. And I just, again, all the way through it, like Jefferson, I wanted to play a superhero, and I was really happy playing Black Lightning, because when you're playing a superhero, it's like playing 2 different people. There's the alter ego and there's the superhero. But I fell in love with Jefferson Pierce, and was so proud of that, of what he represents. I've seen kids out in the world, grocery stores and stuff, and who recognize me, and I realized, I was like, this is someone that they can be proud of, that I can be proud of representing. I mean, he represents family and education. And
exactly.
He's probably one of the most noble alter egos of a superhero I can think of.
Yeah, actually,
that's why, yeah.
And yeah, you're pretty much awesome. Is what I'm
that's
basically.
That's why, like I said, it just, the character impacted me as like a father and as just a person of what I want to mature and grow into more. Because I'm not old, but I'm older. Like, I just wanted to change, and the character, was definitely like an inspiration for that. So we do appreciate that. You did Black Lightning. It was a great show, and I was always championing for it, because it was always one of the things that kind of like the show that kind of, I don't say people forgot, but it was just like, sometimes I felt like, with my friends that all watched them, like that was one they did. And I was like, no, you have to watch this one. Like, there's a different feel, tone, niche that it's touching that the other shows aren't hitting. Yeah. And that's what I loved about the show, was more of the family, the father, the aspects that you took.
Well, I think that I think, I mean, in hindsight, it's 2020, and people much farther above the food chain than me, I guess, made these decisions. But I think if we had joined, because we were kind of late to the crossovers, and I feel like if maybe a season prior, if we had got into the crossovers sooner,
Yeah.
then maybe it could have like opened people's eyes and said, "Oh, there's this other show." And
I
we
agree.
should check it out.
I agree.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to say real quick.
would love to talk to you for like 10 more hours. There's so many things that, like, Tyler and I have been talking for a month, trying to, like, what questions do we really want to ask and all this other stuff, and trying to figure out, like, what the most important things are. And we wanted to talk about What Remains and your newest movie.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, man, there's other people waiting, and we keep getting the curtain call, and they're like, "Hey guys, it's getting close to the hour."
Yeah.
So
Do you want to? I can, because I don't want people to like not get their questions. If there's questions out there, I'll try to be short. You want to rapid fire some questions?
yes, let's rapid fire this.
Funny stories from Never Been Kissed. From the set
Funny
of
stories, Never Been Kissed. I mean, well, Never Been Kissed was like, for me, was primarily, I did a lot of improv on the screen. And in a lot of improv, like I remember Drew Barrymore coming in and she's like, "You look so," what did she say? She said, "You look so young. How is that possible?" And I just kind of improved. I'm like, "Fresh nuts and berries." I can't remember, but it was just, yeah, it was just a lot of fun from an improv standpoint, because I just sat at a blank screen and made up most of that dialogue.
What's your favorite movie and why?
Oh my God, that's real. That's not possible.
It's the hardest
too-
question ever for anybody.
That is, for a person like me. It's like, no, there's just too many. I mean, I love The Graduate. I love, I mean, obviously The Godfather. Christmas time, I always have to watch The Bishop's Wife because I'm just a huge fan of Cary Grant. It's just too many.
Well, on that note, we really do have to explain. I wish we had time to do all of the comments, because we've gotten so many comments in the comment section. But Tyler, would you like to remind people as to why we're here? And also, Cress, thank you for like literally everything. So
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
We are here for the Ritter Rally, raising money for aortic heart health, for heart health. I'm tongue-tied. But yes, Mr. Williams, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. We wanted to talk about What Remains because it seemed like a very personal film for you. I heard you talk about it a little bit online. And we're running out of time. Like, it's just, you have great conversation with great people. Time goes by and it feels like you never have enough time for anything.
It's
so
true.
if you ever want to talk to us, we've got our own shows that we could spin off on. No, I'm kidding. But really,
I mean, yeah, reach out to my people and as they have, and we'll try to make something work.
yes. And
Perfect.
I'm going to ask that George, because we don't have the technology on our side to play the video, but we do have a video explaining why we're here. And yeah, Tyler, thank you guys for being awesome.
No, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, Cress. Thank you.
It was nice meeting you, Cress.
Nice meeting you. Hope I'll see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.